Welcome back to Askewed Reviews, and we have another fan request today, and it is for the 1955 adventure comedy family musical, The Court Jester. Here is your trivia question for today. Once everything is all said and done, which drink has the poison? The vessel with the pestle, the chalice from the palace, or the flagon with the dragon? The answer will be at the end of this episode. Our film starts in a medieval forest where we run into the heroic Black Fox and his band of rebels. It is here we also meet our main character, Hubert Hawkins, played by Danny Kaye, and Maid Jean, played by Glynis John. The two of them work for the Black Fox and are in charge of watching over the true heir to the throne. You see, the throne of the king was usurped by a tyrant named King Roderick I, played by Cecil Parker. Now he rules the land along with his daughter, Princess Gwendolyn, played by Angela Lansbury. One night, while Hawkins and Jean are watching over the infant, they run into a court jester named Giacomo, played by John Carradine. He explains that he is about to be the court jester for the king. The two of them decide to knock him out and switch Hawkins in his place so they can have an inside man. Hawkins, now disguised as Giacomo, shows up to the castle as the new court jester. At the castle, Hawkins discovers who hired Giacomo, and that is Sir Ravenhurst, played by Basil Rathbone. What Hawkins is unaware of is that Giacomo was actually hired because he's also the world's greatest assassin. But the benefit for him is that Sir Ravenhurst has never met the man. Now, that's not the only story that's occurring at this same time. Apparently, the Princess Gwendolyn is being forced to marry Sir Griswold. She has no interest in this, and has decided that she is going to instead marry Giacomo. So, she forces her handmaiden, Griselda, to help her out with this. Griselda is actually a witch, so she decides to cast a spell on him. So whenever he hears the snap of fingers, he changes from the fumbling Hawkins into a swashbuckling hero who is also in love with the princess. And as the story continues, we find out that each and every person seems to have their own plan, which ends up crisscrossing over everyone else's. And of course, Hawkins is caught in the middle of all of them. This film was written and directed by Melvin Frank and Norman Panama. Danny Kaye, of course, had a lot of input as well when it came to this film. In fact, the song Life Could Not Better Be is actually the theme song from The Danny Kaye Show. Frank and Panama actually only had one issue with Danny Kaye playing the character. They felt that his legs were very scrawny, so they actually had to put falsies inside his tights to make the shape of his legs look better. This may also be why Kaye had the line when he offers the princess all of him, including his legs and calves. Speaking of the lower half of Danny Kaye, there's a sequence where he's sitting on the floor next to Cecil Parker, who's playing the king. At points, Parker keeps kicking him in the hip every time he makes a mistake. They actually had to do 11 takes on this scene, so by the time they were done, Kaye had bruises all over his hips. One more piece of trivia related to Danny Kaye when it comes to this film is for the rest of his life after making the movie, people would walk up to him, especially at restaurants, and they would recite the brew that is true speech word for word. That speech, by the way, is more than likely taken from the concept of a very similar speech done in the 1939 movie Never Say Die, starring Bob Hope. However, the one done in The Court Jester, in my opinion, is better. If you weren't aware, Basil Rathbone is actually a world-class fencer. He was 63 when he made this movie, and unfortunately, even he felt he could not handle all of the wild swingings that Danny Kaye would do with his sword. So, for the most part, he did all of the fight sequences, except for one during the snapping fingers fight, where he had to have the fight choreographer step in his place. You might think that the character of the Black Fox is primarily based off of the character of Robin Hood. Now, mind you, most of this film is kind of a parody of Robin Hood, but the Black Fox is actually supposed to be more of a parody of the character of Zorro. There's even a scene taken directly from The Mark of Zorro, made in 1940, which also has Basil Rathbone, where a set of candles are sliced in half. The knights that perform the marching dance number with Danny Kaye are from Jackson, Michigan. They're a group called the Zuvi Drill Team, and they actually were reenactors for Civil War performances. This film is believed to be where the origin of the phrase, get it, got it, good, actually came from. The movie is also, unfortunately, the last filmed sword fight of Basil Rathbone. With Angela Lansbury passing away in 2022, Glynis John, at least as of the recording of this episode, is the last surviving member of the primary cast. So when it comes to the film The Court Jester, I love this movie. In my opinion, it still stands the test of time, and is definitely in my top 5 movies from the 1950s. So I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 5. Now, as for the trivia question from the beginning of this episode, once everything is all said and done, which drink has the poison? The vessel with the pestle, the chalice from the palace, or the flagon with the dragon? The poison does end up in the flagon with the dragon. At the beginning of the sequence, the poison is in the vessel with the pestle, and the brew that is true is actually the chalice from the palace. But because the vessel with the pestle gets broken, it is then replaced with the flagon with the dragon, and the poison goes in the flagon with the dragon. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews. If there's a movie you'd like to see get a review, just mention it in the comments. And as always, like, comment, share, and subscribe.